I want to ask you, who has been the most pleasant surprise this season?
Pleasant surprise. I mean, honestly, 3 games in, it's hard not to say Sasha. A lot of question marks around him. I mean, it's helped out in his case that Trey Lyles has been out these first 3 games so far, and that really opened up the door for him to have an opportunity. He's been great. I mean, he's been hitting his threes at a high clip. His defense has been pretty decent. I mean, I don't think it's been awful. I mean, he's looked good out there so far. And I mean, after Mike Brown saying at the beginning that he might not have a place in the rotation, and again, once Trey Lyles comes back, who knows if he will. But I mean, he's definitely made the case that he should. He's just been super solid, and I've really liked him so far.
Yeah. In terms of the specific thing that's most pleasantly surprising about him, it's clearly the defense. He looked really solid on opening night. I think he had like 2 steals. I think he had another few deflections in that game. I think he was holding his own decently in the Warriors game. Obviously, there were some moments where he closed out and gets blown by. You see that with Kevin Huerter all the time. Those guys just don't have the best foot speed and athleticism. You're not going to be able to fix that. But in terms of putting yourself in a position to not necessarily be exploited, he's been pretty good. And even when teams try to exploit him, there's a lot of times where teams try to get a switch onto him or they see him on the ball handler and they try to go at him. And he does a pretty decent job. I think there were, I don't remember against who, but I think there were a few moments in that Lakers game where he held his own on ball. And he's just looked, we keep talking about like that standard baseline on defense. Can you bring the one that's going to keep you out on the floor? And he's done that. And I feel like he's getting better. And players are talking about how smart he is at knowing where to be. That's the key thing to minimizing the exploitation of your athletic deficiencies. So I don't know. I mean, I think we talked about it a couple, maybe last week on the podcast. Like we expected him to do that, but I expected him to do that like in December, January. I didn't expect it to be through the first 3 games. And like you said, clearly it's helped a lot that Lyles has been out with that calf injury. And, you know, I expect Lyles to get back in the rotation, but he's going to have to get back into game shape and everything like that. I mean, he's been out for a couple weeks now. So Vezenkov is going to keep riding, and, you know, we might see more of that small ball 5 type stuff. And I think even I think there was a moment after Sabonis fouled out where they put Vezenkov in there and they played a really small lineup, and Vezenkov was technically the 5. Now, obviously they didn't run with that for very long, but the spacing that creates. And if you have him and Lyles out there or interchange them or whatever, I mean, that's just so good. And he's clearly such a good shooter. I mean, I think the 3-point percentage is 40% right now. He's obviously rebounding, and the defense looks solid. He's checking all the boxes, and he's looked terrific. And yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I didn't necessarily expect that right away.
Yeah, he looks comfortable too. You know, he looks comfortable, especially in that Lakers game. Like, I feel like the first couple games he passed up some open looks, but you want him taking those shots. He's a great shooter, and I think in that Lakers game, he definitely wasn't afraid to jack him up. That I thought as shots he passed up in the first 2 games. So I was happy to see that too.
Yeah, and you can see the growth and the comfort on floor. But I think in the Warriors game, like in terms of complaints about defense, obviously there's the fact that, you know, if he closes out hard on a guy, he's just allowing essentially an open door. But then there was a moment, I think, in that Warrior game where he and JaVale McGee had a total miscommunication and left the middle of the floor open on a certain play. I don't remember the specifics of it, but I think like Vezenkov jolted out to go guard a outside shooter, and he and McGee didn't communicate for McGee to get back and kind of protect the backside, and it allowed an easy layup. But it's like, I mean, those kinds of things, if they're not happening very much, and it doesn't seem like they are, that's just stuff that's getting better. And so the improvement it's there, and I expect it to continue to get better. And yeah, I mean, if there's he fits the bill perfectly as in terms of being a pleasant surprise. So yeah, he's been great and miles ahead of where I thought he'd be, at least defensively speaking.
Yeah. So. Smart guy though. He's a smart player, and he definitely shows that he has a high basketball IQ, I think.
Yeah, and a very good understanding of his place in the league and on the team. I mean, we've seen that since his introductory presser. I mean, he's just very grounded, and I don't know. I have nothing bad to say about Sasha Vezenkov. He's been Absolutely terrific. Taking Chimezi Metu's number and just living up to the name.
Living up to Mezzi. Mezzi to Vezzi.
Mezzi to Vezi. Yeah, hey, Vezi Mamba.